Think back again, Obama-Biden, I covered them in the 2008 campaign. The Obama-Biden team said in year one of their administration, they would pass comprehensive immigration reform and sign it into law. That obviously did not happen, even though they had Democrats running the House and the Senate. The president jumping on this issue, as he often does, tweeting overnight, courts and Democrats in Congress, neither of which have a clue, are trying to force migrants into our country. Our country is full. Our detention centers, hospitals, and schools are packed. Crazy. The president pushing hard on this issue still.
Yeah, I mean, the White House putting out a letter yesterday on this issue, sending it to Congress, desperately hoping they'll actually do something about it. Here's part of what they said in that letter to Congress. They said the situation has continued to deteriorate and is exceeding the previous high-end estimate. It's necessary to obligate funds at a rate that will exhaust amounts currently available to fund services that involve the safety of human life, protection of property, and immediate welfare of individuals. If the amount of people coming is so unsustainable that we can't manage it, and then we don't know where these folks are, it's time to do something about it.
Yeah, and I think you can blame Democrats and the courts to an extent, but you also have to blame Republicans. This is a problem that no one wanted to do anything about. Nobody wanted to touch it because it's a tough issue, and it causes controversy, right? It leads to talking points from folks on the left saying you're racist, you're anti-immigrant, that then you have to tackle. But the bottom line is, at some point, it's not about politics. If you have a humanitarian crisis at the border, if you have the border being flooded, if you have migrants having to be, put on airplanes and shifted to other parts of the country, this isn't about politics. This is beyond politics. This is about security, and this is about a crisis that's happening that's affecting people's health and well-being throughout the country. So put your politics aside and just do something about it.
Biden said nothing substantive about what he would do about it. He's still talking about unity.
Yep.
He's trying to ride above all that because he doesn't want to be pulled too far to the left in a general election, probably.
Evening, everyone, and welcome to The Next Revolution. I'm Steve Hilton, and this is the home of positive populism. Pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community. And what a treat we have for you tonight. Last week, I had the tremendous honor of sitting down with the president at the White House. And we had a great conversation about a wide range of policy issues, about politics in the next election, and some fascinating personal insights into life at the White House and his response to the criticisms of how he does the job. It's a side of the president you don't often see. And we didn't want to cut it down or chop it up. Tonight we're devoting the whole hour to my conversation with President Trump, and you don't want to miss a minute of it. And we want you to join the conversation. Follow us at Steve Hilton X and at NextRevFNC and let us know what you think. I started with the big policy news of the week, the president's new immigration plan. Take a look. Mr. President, great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Steve.
So much going on. I want to start with your new immigration plan.
Yes.
Just tell us what you're aiming to achieve with that.
Well, really, very simply, we have companies coming in here, as you know, by the dozens and by the hundreds, and big ones, car companies. Honda's coming in with $14.5 billion. We have a tremendous amount of very, very top of the line. And they're coming back. We need people. We need people. And our unemployment now is down to 3.6, and I think it's going a lot lower. We're doing really well. I want to make sure that anybody that comes into our country comes in through merit. You know that very well. I watch your show all the time, and we want it coming in through merit. That's what we have to have. We can't do the other. It's just not possible. And what we want to do is put up a very strong border. We'll have, by the end of next year, 450 to 500 miles built of the water wall, of the wall itself and the border wall. And it's imperative. I read so much where the Democrats like to say, we're going to have drones flying around. You have thousands of people. The drone doesn't do a thing. So the wall is being built as we speak. We'll have close to 500 miles done by the end of next year, which is really something, and that'll have a big impact. And we're changing laws as rapidly as we can get them through the courts. But you know better than anybody, we're fighting a court system. We're fighting the Democrats. The Democrats want open border. That means crime. And we have great crime statistics, but they'd be even better if we didn't have, all of this coming in between the drugs and many of the wrong people, people that have records, people that have criminal records. So we're making very sure that those people don't get in. We're taking tremendous numbers of them out. And all of this is in a very comprehensive plan. And it'll go before Congress. It's going to have tremendous Republican support. I hope we can get enough Democrat support to get it passed.
So you think this actually has a chance of happening?
Well, I think there's tremendous pressure on many of the Democrats to get something passed, in areas where I won by a lot and then somebody got in in the House, in particular in the House, so they control the House. But there's a lot of seats where they're, very inclined toward me. And this time I'm running as opposed to just watching.
Because a lot of people are saying that what they've heard about this plan is that it's designed really to get the Republicans all together. They don't really expect the Democrats to get behind it.
No, we expect that. Look, you can't say you expect anything. The one thing I will say, they have lousy policy. In many cases, they're lousy politicians. But you know what? They stick together. And you go throughout history, for whatever reason, the Democrats stick together. And the Republicans don't stick the same way as the Democrats do. And I don't say that as a positive. I say that as a negative. The Democrats do stick together. So if they decide, I guess leadership decides that they don't want to have it, then we're going to have a continuation. But we've gotten very tough on the border. We're letting, we have a catch and release where you catch and then you have to, by law, release. Or you have to take them to a court. Nobody has a court system. What country has a court system where somebody walks into the country? Other countries, they take them out.
So does this new plan have details in it that would change that?
Tremendous details. It's got a very fair asylum system. The asylum system is a disaster right now. They read a statement handed to them by a lawyer, and then you're supposed to take them in. A lawyer hands them a statement, and they read the statement.
Right.
They come in and they say, we fear to be in our country. But then you see they were the people online, they're carrying the flag of their country, whether it's Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador.
So you got the asylum.
It's a big con, Steve, to be honest with you. It's a disgraceful thing. It could be fixed in 15 minutes if the Democrats would agree.
And the big thing about it is the change in terms of people coming in, whether from wherever in the world, but for merit. That's the key point.
The biggest thing is you come in through merit and you come in legally. Two things. You have to come in legally and you have to come in through merit.
And one thing that people have speculated about was that it might include E-Verify. Is that going to be in the...
So E-Verify is going to be possibly a part of it. The one problem is E-Verify is so tough that in some cases, like farmers, they're not equipped for E-Verify. I mean, I say this against Republicans. A lot of the Republicans say you go through an E-Verify. I used it when I built the hotel down the road on Pennsylvania Avenue. I use a very strong E-Verify system. And we would go through 28 people, 29, 30 people before we found one that qualified.
Right.
So it's a very tough thing to ask a farmer to go through that. So in a certain way, I speak against myself, but you also have to have a world of some practicality.
So when people hear that, some of the people, if you like, who are most they're described as the restrictionists, the people who really want to kind of cut immigration to practically nothing. They hear that and they say, well, this plan was written by Jared Kushner and he's a globalist and it's all letting people in. What do you say to those? Many of them will be your supporters who are nervous about it.
Steve, this is not a globalist plan. I wanted this to be very, very strong. We did judicial reform. You saw what we did there, and a lot of people liked it, both conservative and liberal. That was probably the closest you could say to bipartisan. And because a lot of it was unfair. And by the way, it's very tough. We have Chuck Grassley in support of it. Mike Lee is in support of it. Some of the strongest conservatives. And at the same time, we have some people with pretty liberal leanings. But this is really not. This is the least globalist. All it is very simple. Strong border, very strong border. And, by that time, we'll have the wall bill, too. But strong border, and you have to come in if you're going to come in through merit, so that all these companies that are moving into the United States can use the people where they can help, as we say, make America great again, right? So that's what it's all about.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Let's talk about China.
Go ahead.
Huge issue. I want to start with actually a small but really important part of it, the human part of it.
Right.
A lot of people watching, farmers, are going to be very worried. Just tell us what you're proposing to do to help the farmers who may be hurt in the short term.
Good. First of all, I love the farmers. They voted for me. You look at the middle of this country, it's all red, meaning Republican, right? It's all, and it wasn't for other Republicans, but for me it was. And we have a great relationship. And even now, the farmers are saying, look, everybody knows that China's been ripping off the United States, along with almost every other country, in all fairness. And we're changing it pretty rapidly. You see what's happening. But the big one is China. We have a trade deficit with China of $500 billion. That's not even conceivable. And we've had it for years, and it goes up and it goes down, but it's from 200 to 500 and 600 billion dollars a year, not million, $billion a year. And somebody had to do something about it. And we pretty much had a deal. It was a strong deal, and I told President Xi, who's somebody I like a lot, but he's for China and I'm for us, right? But I told him, I said, look, this can't be like a 50-50 deal. This has to be a deal. You're so far ahead from presidents that allowed you to get away. This can't be a 50-50 deal. Anyway, we had a very strong deal. We had a good deal. And at the end, they changed it. And I said, that's okay. We're going to tariff their products. And we put a 25% tariff on their products. We actually started it about 9 months ago, and we've been collecting 25% on $50 billion of mostly technology. And then we have $200 billion that it was 10% and it was supposed to go to 25, but because they were negotiating in what I thought was good faith, I let it be 10%, and I didn't, 2 days ago I made it 25. So they're paying $250 billion at 25%. So we're taking in billions of dollars. Now, from China's standpoint, it's not good because all of these companies, many of these companies that are paying the tariff are moving to Vietnam and other places in Asia.
I think, by the way, that's the point that's lost in all this. So people say, oh, well, it's not the Chinese government that's paying the tariffs. And they say, well, you're not being straight about that.
It hurts China so bad.
Right, and especially that relocation of their supply chain. That's what they depend on.
Well, the bigger relocation is that you're going to have a lot of American, even if I said for 25% or even for 10%, you're going to have a lot of American companies now come out and they're going to build plants and make this product in the United States, which I like even better. I mean, you have two. Look, they could buy from China, in which case we take in tariffs. That's okay. It's not so bad. But a lot of companies already, they move very fast in Asia. And a lot of these companies that are in China are now moving to all Asian countries where they don't have the tariffs. So really, we have very smart people in this country. They'll be buying from different locations, but with the farmer.
Yes.
Because I love the farmer. We are going to be taking in possibly $100 billion, possibly more than that in tariffs. We never took in 10 cents from China. They took advantage of us for many, many years. And I blame us. I don't blame them. I don't blame President Xi. I blame all of our presidents, and not just President Obama. You go back a long way. You look at President Clinton, Bush, everybody. They allowed this to happen. They created a monster. We rebuilt China because they get so much money. So what I'm going to do is, out of the $100+ billion, I said to my farm people, I said to Sonny Perdue's Department of Agriculture, Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny, what's the most money that China has ever paid toward agriculture, toward buying food product? He said $15 billion a number of years ago. I said, is that the most? He said, yes. Some people say closer to 20, but 15 billion was about the most. I said, good. I'm going to take $15 billion out of the $100 billion, and I'm going to give that to our farmers. Now, I don't have to give all of it.
Buy their product that they're not
selling.
I
don't have to give all of it because they're going to be able to sell at a much lower price. So the difference between where they were and the lower price. So maybe if it's a $15 billion amount, they may end up getting 6 or 7 or 10 or whatever it is, but they'll be able to sell.
So you're compensating.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. I met with farmers about 3 weeks ago. First of all, they are unbelievable patriots. They said, sir, we don't want a subsidy. We just want a level playing field. We also know that we're being killed by these countries, by many of the countries, not just China. China's just so much bigger than everybody else in terms of the dollars. But I said, what do you mean you don't want subsidy? You have to be kidding. Everybody that comes to see me, they all want a handout. You're the only ones that don't want it. They don't want it. All they want is a level. They just want to make a living like they have. One man said, I've been on my farm, my family, for 150 years. We don't want subsidy. We never had subsidy. We never want it. We just want a level playing field because nobody can beat us with a level playing field, and that's what I'm doing. But what I'm doing now is I'm helping them along during this period of time at the highest level, because I said, I want to know what's the highest number. So I'm not taking them at a low level. So the farmers are going to be in great shape, and it's going to start taking place very soon.
I was going to ask that exact question. When can they expect to see something?
Well, we're now taking in billions of dollars in tariffs that we never took in. And then the big thing with the tariffs is, we have $325 billion left over. Do I do that at 10% or 20 or 25%? That's tremendous amounts of money.
So I just want to ask you, what's your end game on this trade dispute? Is it that you want to sort of settle here? Would you be happy if it was just about the trade? How important is the technology theft, all of that stuff?
A lot of people won't be happy with this answer, but I'm very happy now. We're taking in billions of dollars. China is obviously not doing well like us. You know, since I've been here, since I've been president, we've made almost $10 trillion in wealth, and China has lost $10 trillion in wealth. They've lost a tremendous amount. They've gone, you know, they've had a, you see what's happening. Their economy is not great. Our economy has been fantastic because they were catching us. They were going to be bigger than us. If Hillary Clinton became president, China would have been a much bigger economy than us by the end of her term. And now it's not even going to be close.
So what do you think of that analysis? A lot of people look at what the statements of Chinese leaders. They've written it down in speeches and so on. And they say, look, China's got a clear plan. They want to replace the U.S. as the superpower in 30 years' time.
Not going to happen with me.
But do you believe that that's their intention?
Yes, I do. I think that's their intention. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, they're very ambitious people. They're very smart. They're great people. It's a great culture, an amazing culture. You know, when I had President Xi, I was showing him the Lincoln bedroom and the White House, and I said, this was built in 1799. You know, I think of that as being really old. But to him, that's like a modern house, China.
Right.
Because they have 3,000 and 4,000-year-old places, right? But no, it's a great culture. It's an amazing culture with amazing people. And I like him a lot. But he's for China, and I'm for us. So there's a little bit of a conflict.